بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد لا سيما على مهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن الأسكري أرواحنا فداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال مولانا علي بن الحسين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: اللهم اجعل نفسي مطمئنة بقدرك راضية بقضائك مولعة بذكرك ودعائك محبة لصفوة أوليائك. Throughout the holy nights of Shahr Ramadan, I was blessed with a number of brothers and sisters listening from different parts of the world in being able to discuss different lines and analyze different statements and lines from the ziyarah known as Ziyarat Aminullah, where Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is performing the ziyarah of his grandfather, Amirul Mu'mineen salamullah alayh. And we were lucky and we had the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we were able to discuss two different parts of the ziyarah, and we got to the third part. And this third part, as I mentioned previously in previous lectures, was when Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, after performing the ziyarah of his grandfather salamullah alayh, changes his tone of supplication into a dua. From a ziyarah he changes into a dua, and he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 13 things. And we discussed some of these 13, some of the first few in our previous lectures. For example, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, Allahumma ij'al nafsi mutma'innatan biqadarik radiyatan biqada'ik. Oh Allah, allow my nafs and soul to be at peace and with tranquility in that which you decree and that which you have destined. And oh Allah, allow my nafs and my soul and my existence to be mula'atan bidhikrika wa du'aik. May my nafs and myself always be running towards your remembrance and your supplication. And the statement we come to analyze tonight, the dua of the Holy Imam, is when the Imam then says, muhibbatan li safwati awliyaik. Allow my soul and nafs to be loving, i.e. allow me to love your close friends and servants and those that have been chosen by you, those who are known as awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how better for us to spend these nights of Layal al-Qadr and the last 10 nights of Shahr Ramadan discussing this. Why? Because often people have the question in their minds when it comes to these holy nights: what should I ask for? In Layal al-Qadr, what should I supplicate for? And what best way to answer this question? By looking at those 13 things that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam himself asked for. For this, of course, was for us to take heed and guidance and to realize how I should do dua and what I should do dua for. The Imam very interestingly says, allow me to have love for your chosen servants, for your chosen friends. Now, of course, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is part of those chosen friends. For when we say awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we mean the anbiya, the mursaleen, the ma'soomeen, the a'imma of Ahlul Bayt, all of these infallibles. The Imam was saying, allow my love to be my heart to be filled with their love, and the fire of love in my heart to be kindled, so that I have love of Ahlul Bayt and A'imma and Anbiya and those people, those servants who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before we get to analyze this supplication of the Holy Imam, we need to understand two things. Number one is, often people say, why discuss? Why discuss Anbiya, A'imma, Ahlul Bayt and their love and how it affects me and what benefit it gives me? Often people today, they want majalis and lectures, or they want sessions in masajid, but they don't want to discuss the awliya of Allah. They don't want to discuss what Quran speaks about. They don't want to speak about ahadith of Ahlul Bayt. They don't want to hear the dhikr of the chosen servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to those people, it needs to be said that if you're not going to discuss Ahlul Bayt, A'imma, Anbiya, Quran in masajid, in majalis, then where else are you going to discuss? People often say, we don't want discussions of this type in our majalis. We want discussions that are solely dunyawi. No. Yes, there are many discussions that are important. But it's also vital that a person spends some of his time whilst in masajid, whilst in majalis, whilst in gatherings, discussing the lives of these infallibles, the qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, and trying to ensure that the love of these individuals is in our hearts. Which is why the Imam himself asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, increase my love for those awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first point to mention, that it's important that we spend time. Yes, there are issues that exist that also need to be discussed, but we should also spend time discussing the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what qualities they had that made them beloved in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing we need to understand before we enter into this discussion is that love of awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is of different types. Love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's chosen servants and friends is ala anwa'in wa ashkal, is of different types. Which one was the Imam speaking about? Sometimes I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's servants because of my own benefit, that which I gain personally from loving them. I mention Ahlul Bayt, I mention A'imma, I mention Anbiya because I want my du'as to be answered. Sometimes the only reason I recite a ziyarah or mention the name of one of the A'imma or call out Sahibul Asri wal Zaman Salamullahi alayhi is because I have a du'a, a problem that I wish to be answered. This love we're not talking about. Ulama, when they analyze this statement of Ziyarat Aminullah, they say the love that is being spoken about is the love for the chosen servants of Allah because of Allah. The only reason I should love them is because Allah loved them. Allah told me to love them because they were close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not that the only reason I mention them is because I wish to solve my problems. This is one of the benefits I get from loving them, but this isn't the reason why I love the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes then for us to analyze this statement, we wish to do so by looking at two different discussions very quickly. And again, I say these discussions need a lot more time, a lot more detail, but just some snippets and indications. The first question that comes is why? Why does Imam Sajjad say, allow me to love your close servants? And why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reiterate this? إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. If you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the only way you can love him is by following the Prophet of Islam, having ita'ah of the Prophet of Islam, loving the Prophet of Islam. So why was it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and A'imma and Ahlul Bayt said we have to have love for the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why? And the second part of the discussion is what benefits does a person get and gain from this love of the chosen servants of Allah Azza wa Jal. In regards to the first issue, we see a number of reasons why. A number of reasons why it makes sense for me to ask on nights like this for Allah to increase the love that I have for His chosen servants. For example, often you have in your life, you have a friend. And as the nature of the human being is, one person then knows another person, that person knows another person. Human being is a social human being. And often you realize in your life that once, because of one friend, you end up meeting 2 or 3 or 4 other people that you would otherwise never have met. And sometimes what takes place in your life is that you meet one person and that friend of yours introduces you to someone else that completely changes your life, has such a great impact on your life. And if you hadn't been introduced to that person, your life wouldn't have been the same. And so you're thankful to who? Your original friend who introduced you to that second person. Bidun tashbih, this is similar to the role of these awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without Anbiya, without A'imma, without Ahlul Bayt and Ma'sumin and Az-Zahra alayhim as-salam and all of these individuals, I could never understand and recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These were those people that showed me who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was, placed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ma'rifah in front of my eyes. Without them, I would never have been able to understand who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Which is why the Imam says, ask to increase your love for us, Ahlul Bayt, for A'imma, Anbiya, Ma'sumin, for they were those that took you straight to the doorstep of recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'll give you one very beautiful example. Allama Amini rahmatullah alayhi, the author of the book Ghadir, very well known book and very well known author and alim. Allama Amini often used to have debates, ilmi discussions with ulama of different madhahib and different sects. On one occasion, he was discussing لعله with one of the ulama and scholars from Egypt, and the discussion was through correspondence, and they were writing letters to each other. The discussion was on the infallibility and ismah of Ahlul Bayt and Imams. So Sheikh Amini of course mentioned that we believe all of our A'imma, all of our Ma'sumeen are infallible at the highest level of infallibility, and these are the proofs that we have. As they were in correspondence, when the alim from the other madhab asked him for one proof, give me one proof. You say you have many proofs, give me one proof that your A'imma are infallible. And so Allama Amini rahmatullah alayhi, all he does is he sends that person one book. Sends him one book. That alim, he says that I received that book from Allama Amini at the time of Maghrib, and I spent from Maghrib until Fajr reading that book, that I finished it in one night. And I wrote back to him and I said, this is enough proof of the infallibility of your A'imma. Because of what is mentioned in this book, that how could someone recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and speak and address Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like this? What was that book that he had shown him? The book that Allama Amini had given him was Sahifa Sajjadi of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. That fil waqi', in reality, if you look at the supplications that you have, Dua Abu Hamza Thumali, if a person just ponders even on a few parts of Dua Abu Hamza Thumali, that which philosophers and scholars and ulama of logic and mantiq, that which they try to discuss and go into, and theologians try to discuss in pages and pages and books, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam mentions in one line, Bika araftuk wa anta dalaltani alayk. So much ma'rifah, so much knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala found within these supplications, found within Dua Kumail mathalan. The first reason why I was told to love them is because they took me to the doorstep of recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They showed me how to supplicate. They showed me how to get as close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as possible. The second reason why, and there are many, just to mention a few, the second reason why is of course because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often will grant my supplications because of them. And as I said, this isn't the reason why I love them. This is one of the benefits I get. One of the benefits I gain is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often will answer my supplications because of these individuals. And I mentioned some of those riwayat in the previous discussions. And even ayat of Quran, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. The Quran beautifully mentions, if they have committed sin and they come to you, Ya Rasulullah, they ask Allah for forgiveness, and Ya Rasulullah, you also ask for their forgiveness, Allah is Tawwabun Rahim. Allah will be merciful upon them. The Prophet of Islam, for example, Quran al-Kareem says, مَا كَانَ مُؤَذِّبُهُمْ وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُؤَذِّبَهُمْ وَأَنْتَ فِيهِمْ. Whilst you are there, Ya Rasulullah, we won't punish them. Because of the awliya and because of love of awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, many of my supplications Allah answered. Many bounties Allah gave to me because of loving them. So why not ask on this night to increase that love that I have for Sahib Zaman and A'imma of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, so that I am showered by those bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third reason we find why someone would love or should love the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, safwat awliyaik, is because the human being naturally goes towards that which is beautiful, that which is good. Your heart loves to go towards that which is good. And so why would my heart then not go towards those individuals who had the best of character out of all of human beings, out of all of mankind? No one had a character. No one had amal and action and implementation of the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one had humanity like these individuals. And so as part of my fitrah, to love people that loved human beings, to love people that implemented the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala onto this earth like no one else. To love people that had the softest of hearts. When you look at the lives of Ahlul Bayt, A'imma and Anbiya, Why would I not love them when I see the impeccable characteristics that they had in their life? And I wish to give you one example, and I wish to then move to our second discussion. Amir al-Mu'mineen, these days are the days of remembrance of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We're told that a few weeks or so before he is martyred by Ibn Muljam. Ibn Muljam, may Allah's mercy be away from him. Ibn Muljam on one occasion says that I reached Kufa a few weeks before I had to attempt to assassinate the Holy Imam, and I don't know anyone there. I don't know anyone in Kufa. I wish to find a place for myself to stay, a place that I can stay and rest and spend the night. He sees that there's a group of fuqara in a certain part of the city. He goes to one of them. He says, do you mind if I look? I know there's not that much space. I know everyone has their own space and their own belongings and whatever. And only a certain amount of food is given. But if you don't mind, just for one night, if I can just spend the night here, and tomorrow I'll find my own place. The person says, okay, fine. The person says, look, Ali ibn Abi Talib comes. Now, whether he comes normally, the Aimma alayhimus salam would come at night time to distribute bread to the poor. So whether it was nighttime, daytime is not that important. But he says, look, Ali ibn Abi Talib comes and each person gets one loaf of bread. You're not from the city, so I don't know what's going to happen. But what we'll do, this person had a soft heart and a kind heart. He said, look, the one loaf of bread that I get, half of it, you can have the other half, I will consume. They hear the footsteps of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ibn Muljam knows the status of Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen. He knows that Amir al-Mu'mineen is a genius of his time. He knows that Amir al-Mu'mineen will pick up immediately. Why is he here? This person's from the Khawarij. He'll know that, for example, if I'm spotted by Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen will know that, for example, I'm trying to kill him or something's going on here. And he had that level of recognition that he knew the status of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So when he hears that Amir al-Mu'mineen is entering in, he hides himself. Now, whether he hid himself under someone's bed, behind a pillar, whatever, he hides himself. Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi is entering. And as he's entering, he's giving each person one loaf of bread until Ali ibn Abi Talib gets to that poor person, that faqir, with whom Ibn Muljam is meant to be a guest. And Ali ibn Abi Talib, with the ilm al-ghayb that he has been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he places 2 loaves of bread next to that person. That person looks up and says, Ya Ali, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, everyone else gets one. Every day we get 1 loaf of bread. Why today do I get 2? So Ali ibn Abi Talib says, because you have a guest today, don't you? Give that to your guest. Ali ibn Abi Talib has ilm al-ghayb. Allah gave him ilm and knowledge of the unseen. So he knows not only that that guest is Ibn Muljam, he knows that that is the person who eventually will assassinate him and be the reason for his death and shahada and martyrdom. Yet still, look at the insaniya of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That he doesn't wish for even a human being who is going to be his qatil, who is going to be his murderer. He doesn't even wish for him to go hungry on a night like this in Kufa. And so he says, this is for that guest of yours. Even though that guest is a mujrim, even though that guest is someone who will be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is being punished by Allah azza wa jal, yet still look at the insani of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Look at the mercy of that Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi. Why do I love Ahlul Bayt and A'imma and Awliya? Why did Imam Sajjad say, increase on a night like this, muhibbatan li safwati awliyaik, my love for these individuals? Because they had a character like no other character. The more I love them, the more I'm able to look at their character and implement their character in my life. The closer I get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the first discussion as to why. Why did the Imam say, allow me to love, increase my love? The second discussion is, what benefit do I get? What benefit do I get from loving awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And again, many riwayat mentions as to what a person is given. For example, a person comes to Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I love you. I love you, Ya Ali ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, in kunta sadiqa. If you are true, then you will see me in a number of places. I.e., Amir al-Mu'mineen was telling us what is the effect of loving him. He says, if that which you say is truthful, you will see me in a number of places. For example, he says, you will see me whilst your nafs is being removed from your body. You will see me when you are next to the sirat. When you are walking on the sirat, you will see me, for example, next to the pool of Kawthar. If your love is true for me, you will see me in some of the most difficult times that you have in your life. Certain riwayat speak about 7 or 8 different places where A'imma Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam come to help the believer in the akhirah if he had the love for sifwat awliyaik. And I wish to give us one example of this. One example of the benefit. And this example comes from the life of the great alim Allamatul Hilli, rahmatullah alayh. Allama Hilli, as we know, has written a number of books. Books in fiqh he has, books in usul he has, books in aqaid and theology he has. There are so many different ulum, in history even, Allama Hilli has books. Some of the very important works that we have are the works of Allama Hilli, rahmatullah alayh. Allama Hilli has one book by the name of Al-Fayn. And Al-Fayn, in actual fact, is a response to someone who wrote 1,000 objections against the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So a person, he wrote 1,000 objections, ishkalat, criticisms of the infallibility of Amir al-Mu'mineen, of the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib, saying that he wasn't the truthful successor of the Prophet of Islam, he wasn't mansoos min Allah, all of these things. Now, Allama Hilli, when we look at this book, Al-Fayn, we're told as to the story behind how it was written. And the narratives are slightly different, but very similar, even though there's slight differences in certain details. But we're told that this person who wrote this book with 1,000 criticisms wouldn't allow anyone to see or get a copy of the book. Now, it's not like today when you have photocopy, when you have scan, when you have all types of things on the internet, how easy it is that to copy a book. He has one copy and he doesn't want anyone to be able to be given it. Why? Because if it comes in the hands of a follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that person may copy it down and write a response. And so to prevent anyone from writing a response to his book, what does he do? He doesn't allow anyone to even see it. Allama Hilli, when he realizes this, he asks the author to borrow the book. And of course the author says no. If Allama Hilli is asking me for the book, he's going to copy it down, he's going to give me back my copy, he's going to read it and he's going to analyze it and he's going to write criticisms. And so he says no. Allama Hilli comes to him and says, look, give it to me for one night only. 300, 400 page book, you can't copy it out by hand in one night. He says, give it to me one night only. The next morning, as soon as the time of Fajr comes, I'll give it back to you. So that person then thinks that he can't copy out the whole book in one night. He says, done. Al-Mu'minun inda shurutihim. Here's the book. You give it back to me after one night. Allama Hilli takes the book. What is his intention? He didn't tell that person, I'm not going to copy it down. What's his intention? To copy down the whole book so that then he can write the answers to the criticism that he has posed, this person has posed against Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi. And this is part of the muhibbatan li safwati awliyaik. The love that Allama Hilli had for Amir al-Mu'mineen and his wilayah and the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. He starts copying out as much as he can. Allamatul Hilli was a human being after all. After a few hours of copying and writing by hand, he falls asleep. And now there's different, as I said, different details as to how this story is mentioned. Some say that just before he falls asleep or just as he wakes up, he sees a certain Sayyid who enters into his room where he was writing, and the Sayyid sits down, and that Sayyid helps him finish copying of this book. Others said no. Others that quoted this event in history said that no, he fell asleep, and when he wakes up, when his eyes open, he sees, or he's in regret. I had promised him one night only, and I fell asleep after 2 or 3 hours. I only, for example, copied a quarter of the book, half of the book. How can I write a response if I haven't copied it completely? Until he looks at the pages that he's written and he sees that somehow all of the book has been copied out completely. And according to this narrative of the story, once he notices that all of the book has been copied completely, he looks at the bottom, at the end of the book, at the end of his page, and he finds a message that this was completed by none other than Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. As I said, the other narrative says no, that he in fact meets the Holy Imam. The Imam comes and helps him write up and copy out that book. Allama Halli then gives the book back to the alim, the Sunni alim, and he writes a response. That person wrote 1,000 criticisms against the wilaya and infallibility of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allama Halli al-Fayn writes 2,000 proofs from Quran, from the Aql, what it may be, 2,000 proofs of the wilaya of Ali bin Abi Talib. My discussion was, how does love for Safwat Awliya'ik give you benefit? When he dies, Allamatul Halli, he comes into the dream of his son Fakhrul Muhaqqiqeen, and he tells Fakhrul Muhaqqiqeen what took place with him in the questioning of the Qabr, Al-Kitab wal-Hisab. Fakhrul Muhaqqiqeen says, "Oh my father, which things did you see benefited you the most?" And we have many riwayat even that are similar to this. Which things benefited you the most in the Akhirah? Which things did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you the most, and you were given the bounty of Allah and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most for? He says, "Oh my son, 2 things. Number 1, Al-Fayn, the book that I wrote. Why? Because it was a manifestation of his love for Safwat Awliya'ik." He says, number 1, Al-Fayn. Number 2, Ziyaratul Husayn alayhi salam. One of the greatest things I get for having love for these chosen servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only does Allah help me in the dunya, Allah helps me in the akhirah. And that's why it is fil waqi' a tragedy, in reality a tragedy, that Layali al-Qadr go, the nights of Shahr Ramadan go. And so many of us forget to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase my love, especially for Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Increase my love for Sahib al-Asr. Allow me to have the love, like the love that Allama Halli had for Amir al-Mu'mineen, that he went to all types of difficulty to protect his wilaya. Allow me to be able to be like that for Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. For when I have the love for this holy Imam and I pray for him and I pray for his protection on a night like this, like Imam Sajjad would say, Muhibbatan li Safwat Awliya'ik, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drowns me in his mercy in this world and drowns me in his mercy in the next. And so we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma ij'al nafsi mutma'innatan biqadarik, radiyatan biqada'ik, mula'atan bidhikrika, wa du'a'ik, muhibbatan li Safwat Awliya'ik, mahbubatan fi ardhika wa sama'ik. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.